Birds of Prey and Supergirl.
This is Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action.
This is Mark Wade, writer of Superman Birthright.
And you're listening to the Krypton Report.
And you're listening to Krypton Report.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird!
It's a plane! It's the Krypton Report!
The All Things Kryptonian podcast, including Superman and Supergirl.
We discuss games, movies, cartoons, TV shows, and comics.
Find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter.
Welcome to the Krypton Report. In this episode, we're going to talk about the great and powerful Junia. That's all we're going to talk about.
You're hilarious.
Hi, everybody. We're going to talk about Birds of Prey. I don't know if we're going to talk about Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, or if we're going to talk about Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. I don't know what movie we're talking about. I mean...
Is that the new title they're going with? Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey?
It's Harley Quinn, then I call them Birds of Prey.
Really?
I mean...
Well, apparently, from what I've read today, it's not like... They didn't officially change the title of the film to that. That's what they changed the title on the marquees for search engine optimization is what they said. That because Harley Quinn is the last thing in the title, like it's not the first thing that comes up when people go in and search for it. So changing the search for Harley Quinn, that brings it up first.
Just like I went on to AMC today just to look, and it says Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, instead of...
Yeah. So I think when the movie comes out, it's still going to be released with the official title of Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn.
Which is a cool title, but it's so long. I mean, it's just kind of like nobody says Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. They're like BVS.
Honestly, Dawn of Justice kind of sounds like a dumber, like a more, just not as good of a punchy title. Yeah. You know, being so long, it's not as much of a punchy title as Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn, because it fits the movie. Except for the fact that it's a Harley Quinn movie and they titled it Birds of Prey, but it fits the film. It tells part of the story. That tells you a number of the characters that are going to be in it, and the fact that it's narrated and told from Harley's point of view, then, it fits.
It sounds like her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd almost prefer if they would have flipped it and been like the emancipation of one Harley Quinn with the Birds of Prey. It
doesn't have the ring.
Just because,
okay. Oh, but I get what you're saying.
Because the thing is, this is like Birds of Prey begins.
Right.
Like, they are very much the start of this. Like, this is their siege. This is them getting started. And they kind of got roped into Harley's-ness and got put together. And, think about it. Like, first of all, one of the birds is missing, which it does bother me that Batgirl wasn't even mentioned, Oracle, like nothing like that. So that kind of bothers me. But Huntress barely.
There's a little something. Yeah, there's a little something there. There's a little something there when we get into talking about the movie as it ends. If they were to ever move forward, how they could introduce and utilize Batgirl or Oracle or Barbara.
It ends in a good place to move forward, but just quick non-spoiler reaction. James, you go. Junia and I already recorded ours, so you say yours non-spoiler.
It was really fun. It was funny. Most of the action was really good. I am glad that they brought on 8711, the John Wick stunt crew, to to finish out the second unit action and stuff. The cast was great. It was the plot was pretty straightforward. Just what they used to bring everybody together, to tie the whole story up, and I enjoyed it, and I plan on going to see it again.
All right, so that is James's non-spoiler. Junia and I recorded a pre-movie talk discussion, and then a quick post-movie non-spoiler thought afterwards. So here we go. Now we're going to talk about the movie. If you haven't seen it and you're listening to this podcast, you probably should see it because you're a DC fan. Here we go. Are you ready? In 3, 2, 1. All right. So the movie is a Harley Quinn movie. And, I mean, I liked it. I enjoyed it. I didn't have high expectations. This is probably the lowest DC film that I've ever gone to see. Like, I didn't really have... Like, I had investment as just far as I enjoyed Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I didn't know what I was going to get out of the birds. And I love Ewan McGregor, so I was pretty pumped about that. But I support my DC, so I was going.
Yeah?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, Ewan McGregor is definitely probably one of the highlights of the film for me, to be honest with you.
Ewan McGregor and Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, they were definitely a draw. I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead ever since I've seen her in like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. She's great.
See, I remember her from Sky High. That's the first time I ever saw her.
Of course you remember her from
Sky
that movie.
High. That movie was awesome.
Who was she in Sky High? I haven't seen that. I haven't watched that in a long time.
Sky High also features a early
Danielle Panabaker.
Yep.
As a Poison Ivy analog.
Yes. I'm trying to remember her character, but she was a technopath.
Was she the villain?
Yep.
Oh, I forgot that was her. Okay, so since then.
I just thought that was a cool movie, and at one point in time, Disney was supposed to develop it into a TV series, but it fell through, which I very much would have enjoyed. But
yeah, I love the movie. It had a great cast.
It did. But I'm not going to get into it, but like this movie's getting some hate, and I just don't think it's deserved.
No, not at all.
My biggest complaint, and Junia and I talked about this before, is I would have liked some more connective tissue to like Suicide Squad or. Like,
it was all over this movie.
It's in there a little bit, but I just felt like I don't know, like you could have had Argus or Waller hunting Harley that she escaped. Like once the Joker let her go, like you had her being hunted by them. Because Harley's walking around in the daylight free, like in Gotham. And, maybe we could have saw some police corruption or something. Or the commissioner's name drop.
Or honestly, it might have been kind of cool if, like, Ewan McGregor, Black Mask there was like, I saved your butt and, helped hide you from Argus or something like that. Or, pulled some strings or, you know what I mean? Like a line like that would have been kind of cool.
Yeah, like he helped, and then he had her in a spot, and then she like saw him as just another Joker analog of somebody. Like she said, like when she said to Dinah about like Harley Quinn needing a master and everything, like she saw him as like he was trying to be her new master. But I mean, honestly, the biggest problem for me was not having Batgirl and then the Cassandra Cain we got.
Do you want to do like character breakdown okay.
We'll start with the least important character of the movie, Cassandra Cain.
Oh my gosh.
Who's basically Cassandra Cain in name alone.
Exactly. And they didn't even make a joke about her being in foster care and say something like, well, I guess you're an orphan kid. I mean, I was explaining to Junia last night what like Cassandra Cain like is right now, and she's like,
yeah, like that's not the character. So, I mean, what? She's completely different, They do kind of. I mean, she is a foster kid, so she is an orphan, but they didn't say that. They didn't say orphan specifically. And then they do say that the kid has potential, which, could easily be built upon properly in a sequel film or another movie with her in it. That her, her taking to fighting and training and things like so like better than anybody ever has. You know what I mean? They could make her that type of character moving forward. But I mean, to have a character, to have a character that would have been like, just for the story that they use, to have a character of such importance be a mute and stuff, it would have probably, it probably could have been played for plenty of laughs on Harley's point, but it would have been hard to, move some of the plot forward if she didn't interact.
True. But they could have made her just a kid, like a different character.
Yeah, she didn't have to be Cassandra Cain.
Right.
And that's kind of my thought process. So, all right. So moving on, next least important character, Victor Zsasz. What are your thoughts?
I would say Victor or Huntress, because they really don't get too much. Either one of them get too much exploration. Victor Zsasz, he was, Chris Messina.
Yeah.
I think. He was. He played the part really great. He was manipulative. He was very manipulative of Black Mask, like being his closest friend, his closest confidant. He was very manipulative of his attitude, of his narcissistic personality. But I do like the fact that he was covered in scars. They really did. They showed that. It would have been nice if maybe they would have showed him do that, like after he killed the family.
Thank you.
Or something.
Thank you. I was thinking about that, just because, like, to really drive home the scars, like, after he killed him, like, we saw him cut himself, like, 3 times to just be, like, to really see, like, the psychoticness. Or, like, after he killed the dad, he could have made a scar. Then the mom, and then made a scar. And then,
could have showed his scars on his body earlier in the film. They only show his scars in his last scene of the film. You see a few on his face or something, but he could have done it either like on his arms or something, maybe pulled up his pant leg and done something, and you'd have seen more scars on his body. And then when he opened up his shirt and he was like covered the way he was, then it would have been more of a shock, but you'd have seen more like on his arms and on his legs or something.
I thought it was interesting we didn't get like a complete shirtless scene with Zsasz. I feel that's always something that we kind of need. This is our 3rd live action Zsasz. Our 2nd being in Gotham.
I really liked Zsasz in Gotham. I thought he was like super creepy, and I think this one actually kind of carried that over pretty well too. I found him almost like sleazy, creepy. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like just I don't know. He reminds me of like dirt under your fingernails. Like it's just gritty and I don't know. I know it's silly, but yeah.
No.
How Zsasz should be. He's the only thing he really cares about is killing and mutilation. Like that's really the only focus he has. So I think the guy definitely played up the sleaze factor.
Oh yes, he did.
Yeah.
I mean, and we'll get into it in a minute, but like, then we had the Victor Zsasz from Batman Begins, who was basically just Zsasz in name because he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
I was trying to think of what you were talking about, and like the third one, like who's the third one or the first one? Sorry.
Yeah, Batman Begins. Victor Zsasz was in that. He was brought up by name. He had a few visible scars, but nothing major.
Was it like in the court scene or? Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, he was in the court scene and then in the streets after the Arkham breakout, but that was about it.
Gotcha. Yes, I remember that.
All right. So moving on with the characters, we'll go and we'll talk about Huntress, which just from the promotional art, like I wasn't really digging Huntress, and the fact like I didn't know how she was going to be because there really wasn't much of her in the trailers. But yes, she gets shortchanged, but I really liked Huntress. She had a very dry kind of sense of humor and kind of a
social awkwardness.
Yeah. Like,
kind of from being raised in that like monastery by assassins.
Right.
I mean, I loved so like when she's like, yeah, I'm not part of this. I'm done. I killed him. I'm good. I'm out of here. You know, at the end, she's like, I'm not the crossbow killer. Huntress.
Yeah.
You know, like,
yeah, I loved her. I loved the line she's delivering. Do you know who I am? Trying to get it right in the mirror. Do you know who I am? And every time she said it, it cut to somebody she killed. The crossbow killer. Do you know who I am? The crossbow killer.
Yes.
I did find it interesting.
It was a good bit.
It was.
That a young Zsasz was one of the people that killed the Bertinelli family. That was kind of cool to connect their tissue.
Right. See, I think like a bit like that, you know, the do you know who I am? Like her rehearsing that in front of the mirror, and then cutting to people calling her that, you know, because she doesn't have that name or anything out there, you know, something like that. It's just like a bit. It's just like how like Harley would tell the story of the Huntress, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like you could believe that's how she's telling the story.
Yeah, totally. I personally, I liked Huntress. I actually liked her style a lot too. I wasn't sure at first like how I would feel about her costuming and everything, but I thought it was really cool. It kind of had like a little bit of like a retro 80s vibe to it. But I don't know. I dug it. I thought it was unique.
It was one of those like
It was like also very like what's the word I'm looking for? Like muted. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
It also kind of worked when she was in motion. Like, you know, if you just look at her costume, but then like her in action, you kind of forget, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Like one of her costumes reminded me of that 80s workout, 90s workout where it looked like you were wearing a plastic trash bag around you that my mom used to wear all the time when she would ride her stationary bike.
Like the sweatsuits.
Yep.
Yeah. I liked kind of like the first time you saw her was during the grievances chase scene by Harley, and who she is. Question marks. Grievances. Question marks.
Yes. It's hilarious.
I did think it was interesting that we got to see the young Helena, and then the whole, like... Okay, so this is kind of a plot thing, but did you not think that maybe were you confused a little bit? Like, where did the Bertinelli Niven go? Like, I thought that it was in that car, and that's why they gave it to Helena. But yet, somehow, Black Mask had tracked down and found the Bertinelli diamond. Like, that just kind of didn't make sense to me. Like, where did the diamond go?
Yeah, that's kind of something I need to check out when I watch it again. Is where did the diamond go? Because I mean, I don't assume that like the family has the diamond on them, you know. I would assume that the diamond is probably in storage and safekeeping or something, because Helena, she didn't have the diamond,
Right.
you know.
Exactly.
But Roman had been looking for the diamond. You know, perhaps the Bertinelli family was killed prematurely before the diamond could be acquired. You know.
Yeah.
So I need to see if I need to watch it again and see if there are any other hints as to where it may have been all these years, because that's not something I can. I mean, it is the MacGuffin that brings the entire cast together. You know, it's what the bad guys are looking for. It's why, you know, it's why part of why the family was killed. Why Huntress is there for her revenge. Why Cass is there. Why Harley's there looking for Cass, why Montoya's looking for Cass, and the fact that Dinah is friends with Cass. They live in the same building, and, you know, she knows that she stole the diamond from Zaz. So, I mean, it's kind of, that's the MacGuffin that brings everybody together.
So the next character is going to be Montoya. You know, I really didn't have a problem with Rosie Perez as Montoya. The last thing, and probably the only other thing that I've seen Rosie Perez in, was Pineapple Express.
I forgot about her in that.
So, I mean, I thought it was kind of cool, like the choice of doing an older Montoya. Just like, because she drops the line about Dinah's mom. So that's kind of just some neat, like, tissue to explore, like, in the background of, like, the whole story of what this universe has to offer.
Yeah. It was a nice hint, too, since we only got to see the canary cry once. It was a nice hint, too, that Gotham PD has worked with vigilantes in the past, that there are metahumans that exist in the world and in Gotham, because she was the only one with abilities in the film.
Mm-hmm.
So this Montoya is kind of like the Montoya that got stuck in the police station that never, like, became the question, you know, or becomes the question much later in life.
Well, they do have the line about her needing a code name. So they do kind of say that line for you to go, oh.
You could certainly see an older detective kind of doing the conspiracy theory kind of thing, maybe in her office in, per se, a sequel or something, like in the headquarters. She's the one who's got the board up with all the pins and the string running from here to there and everywhere.
I mean, you could even do something as cool as she decides, like, as her persona in this team, she's going to pick up from Vic Savage. You know, if we had that kind of idea that we had Dinah Drake, you know, before that, you could have already had Vic Savage before as the question, and Montoya decides to kind of continue that legacy or something.
Right.
It's easy to write, but I didn't mind. I liked the idea of, like, it gives her weight to her character about being a detective who's older, who kind of got screwed out of her career.
It makes sense in this storyline, honestly.
Yeah.
And did you recognize who the captain was?
I recognized him. I couldn't place him. I was thinking about that.
From Supernatural.
Rufus from Supernatural, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't until afterwards it dawned on me later, because I was like, I know that face.
I was trying to figure it out too, and I forgot to ask you about it, because I know you know these things usually. So, but yeah, that's what
I'm usually pretty good at that, but
old.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah, her character was good. You know, I like the way Harley called her, or said that she watched too many 1980s cop movies. She used a bunch of cop cliches and stuff. And And I think it partially comes from the fact that these characters are viewed from Harley's point of view. So
Yes.
They're even exaggerated from being who they are. So she's exaggerated like that. She's an old-time detective. She's got a bit of a drinking problem because she's drunk half the time on screen. Yeah.
As a detective.
Oh my gosh. Hopefully she doesn't listen to this podcast.
She'll never listen to
I'm
this
playing.
podcast. But, so we'll keep moving up. I think the next character would be Dinah Lance. Now, I say it like that because James and I had a little side conversation today with Brian about the canaries. Now,
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to run this down with you, Junia, okay?
Go for it.
Dinah Drake is the first black canary, who then gets married and changes her name and she becomes Dinah Lance. Then later she has a daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance. I know, okay? And that's not even getting into like the way Arrow just like chopped up and like made multiple.
Right, yeah.
Because like season 1 you meet Dinah Lance, her mom.
Yeah.
You meet Sarah, you meet Laurel. And then in season 4, you meet Dinah Drake.
Yeah.
Another Dinah Drake. So it's like, okay, they really like the Black Canary.
I've never heard the name Dinah before, so it's like, how do you have
Somebody's
so
in
many
the
Dinahs?
kitchen with Dinah. Someone's in the kitchen I know.
I'm just saying. I don't-
Besides the song and besides Alice in Wonderland's cat, I had never heard the name Dinah for a person.
Yeah, truth.
See,
That's true.
That's what comic book teaches. Like, do you ever meet Hal on the street? No.
No.
Okay. We got these classic names. But
Right.
it gets confusing because of all the comic stuff, like, which Black Canary was with Green Arrow, which wasn't, blah, 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 blah. So it's just interesting to point out. So we kind of get that because this is Dinah Lance. So we can kind of assume that this is Dinah Laurel Lance and that it was her mom, Dinah Drake, that had worked with the police in the past. But I will say, I went into this, like, we've talked about this, but I hate that we even have to say this. I didn't even care that they made her African American. Okay?
I thought it was awesome, honestly.
Like,
It doesn't even really register on my radar.
and that's why I say I feel like I hate that we feel like sometimes we have to address certain stuff because some people are like, well, blah, blah, blah.
Really, the reason why I thought it was awesome is because I really loved the actress. I thought she did a fantastic job. I like her style. I like the way they made her look. Like, she was sharp looking,
I
honestly.
like that they gave her
that character.
They mixed like a hard punk rockish with like a 70s soul.
Yeah, she was really cool.
And that's what she was. And
Yeah,
that's what I liked about it. And like,
Yeah, Journey Smollett was great.
I really enjoyed her Black Canary, her Dinah, and I like as little as she got. I liked everything that she was given to do. I like what she did, and I really like. We'll get to this, but I want to see more of her. I want to see more with like even in the few.
I'm gonna hold my tongue on that.
All right, cool. I'm just saying, like the scenes that we get with her and Huntress, you feel a chemistry and a bond that I would like to see explored. And then character number 2, Roman Sionis.
I would like to talk about Black Canary a little bit.
Yeah,
Oh,
can
okay.
you do that?
My bad. I just went on the train. Sorry. I got excited.
No, you're
James.
fine.
It happens. That's why my wife's here to keep me in check.
No, Journey Smollett, she did amazing. She's probably, she's definitely top 3 favorite characters of the film with Harley, Roman, and Dinah. The top 3 in the film by far. I'm pretty sure that was actually her singing for that song.
It is.
So her voice is amazing.
It was her.
She
I
is.
saw it on iTunes as the song with her name next to it.
Yeah. She's gorgeous. Her style was awesome. Her all of her outfits she wore, her fighting style, her action scenes in the alleyway, the fighting in the amusement mile booby trap scene. The hair tie was funny. Her chemistry with Huntress and Harley. Her disgust with Zaz during their time together. Just, amazing. And then when she did the canary cry at the end, it's kind of a big thing for her. They dropped the hint early on when Montoya approached her, and then she kind of built her up. You know what you need to do. And she'd been suppressing it. So when she finally did it, it knocked her out. But it was, she was great. And I definitely want to, it was an earned moment. And I definitely want to see her. I definitely want to see her again as Dinah Lance.
Absolutely.
All right. I got a little zealous, right? It's late. We can make up words as we go.
Yeah, baby, you're good.
So, Roman Sionis, Black Mask. A character that I will admit I've only really ever experienced through he's one of those characters you kind of see around. But mainly my exposure to him was mainly the Red Hood film, which was voiced by Gary Cole, who was the corrupt guy and Rosie Perez's partner in Pineapple Express.
Oh, funny.
So we're bringing it back to Pineapple Express. And then, of course, he was in the Arkham series games. And then one of my good friends dressed as Black Mask at our Batman-themed Halloween party.
Oh, yeah, he did.
So I didn't know what to expect from this character. And I think Ewan McGregor found a take on this character that fit well with the tone of this film. That kind of makes him a little bit more different than what a Joker or other type of just random crime boss is. I think he balanced the creepiness and the humor very well, and the brutality. Black Mask is known for being brutal. He wasn't afraid to be brutal towards people. I would like to saw him personally get his hands dirty a little bit more, but that's kind of a small complaint.
Is that a character thing that he normally gets his hands dirty?
I mean, he has before,
He has before, but he is a mob boss, so he kind of...
Exactly.
Yeah, he has people do his dirty work for him, but he's known for being brutal when he does get his hands dirty. Like he will assault his people just because he's angry.
Gotcha. See, I don't know much about the character either, other than what I've really seen from the games. But I don't know. I really dug his interpretation of it. I dug the fact that he's a little office rocker, and it shows. Of course, Ewan McGregor, he's an amazing actor and can kind of go from 0 to 100 in 2 seconds, And I love that about the character as well. It's kind of almost like a bipolar thing, and I found that really fascinating as just somebody who's watching the film. It kind of drew you into the character a little bit more than I feel like just a plain old mob boss would, for a lack of a better term. Because I feel like, that mob boss mentality can be very I don't know. It's like a thing that you can see in just about any movie. So to have some kind of a different take on him, I like that he was almost OCD about certain things, and he got creeped out by the macabre. I think that was kind of cool too. So it showed this lighter side of the character that I didn't even realize was a thing, and I don't know if that is a thing in the comics anywhere, but I found that really interesting, and like I said, it just kind of sucked me into the movie and into the character even more. I find it really funny, the one scene where where Dinah comes in to his his home, and she's looking around at like all the masks and everything, and he like marvels over this pygmy head. And I'm just like, I don't know, like there's like little nuggets of like dark humor with this character, and I just find that really kind of refreshing, to be honest. So I enjoyed him.
Yeah, that scene specifically, I've heard criticisms about his weirdness during the scenes in his home, the mask and the heads and things like that. It's like, I actually thought like that made him I don't know what's the word I'm looking for.
Dynamic?
Yeah, like I enjoyed the weirdness. I enjoyed how he was kind of off, you know? Mm-hmm. So, I don't have any criticisms with that scene. Like I liked I liked how he had the masks and the artwork and you know, the boiled heads and stuff. Like I thought it made him like a crazy eccentric, and I like that about it.
Yes, agreed.
One scene that I love about him, I love the scene for twofold. Okay, because I love the scene where they're at the club, and he's upset, and he looks over and that girl's laughing. And he's like, "Is she laughing at me?" And he goes over and basically, like, what's the word? He bullies her, gets her to stand up on the table.
He manipulates her, and he has a
and what I liked about it is it's creepy. Like, he gets creepy and uncomfortable. And what the other thing that I like is the movie's rated R. And had this movie been directed by, say, David Ayer or Zack Snyder, you know that when he said remove her dress, she would have been naked underneath. But because it was directed by a woman, she actually had underwear on underneath. And I like that.
It was refreshing, honestly.
It was a little bit more believable, too.
Yeah, it was definitely, the scene was definitely made you uncomfortable watching. And, you know, it's probably one of the, you know, it's one of the scenes that give them cause for the R rating, even though, like, the movie barely crossed the line for R rating.
We're going to get there.
But, you know, just his narcissistic personality, his ego, you know, somebody laughing, like he didn't even listen to the fact that, you know, she was laughing at a joke that her boyfriend or whatever had told her. He was all upset, and everything was about him, even when it's not.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So that leaves us with, is that all the characters? Did we miss one?
Harley.
No, we missed Bruce. Okay. I liked Bruce.
Oh.
I was a little sad there was only one. There wasn't even a line about, we should get you another, like a friend or, you know, or something. And she named him Bruce.
Okay, honestly, can I put in here real quick? Like,
yeah.
when like her place blew up, I thought for sure that they were going to be bringing in two others, like after that, like he died in the explosion, and I'm like, okay, so this is where the other two come in.
I'm glad that.
So I wouldn't be. Yeah, I'm glad that he made it. I wouldn't be surprised if when she shows up again, if she does have two, and. You know, I forget the names that they are in the comics, but I would not be surprised. Bud and Lou, yeah. I would not be surprised if she gets a second one and it's Bruce and Tim.
Oh my gosh, dude! I would love it. And if they say, "Why is it Tim?" I'd be like, it just sounds right. Or yeah, it would be amazing. His birthday was yesterday, wasn't it, or the day before?
So.
I think it was yesterday.
I'm not sure.
Yesterday. I saw him Superman.
But, you know, it would, you know, it'd be really awesome to kind of throw back to one of her creators, having Bruce Timm as her hyenas. And, you know, I don't know, figuring out the story wise why his name is Tim, but the name, obviously they put in Bruce because she thinks Bruce Wayne is a hunk.
She could be like, she could just say like his name was already Tim. I just like the sound of it, Bruce Tim.
Right, Bruce and Tim.
But okay, so
and then she looks at the camera and winks.
And she could. So that brings us to Harley. Harley, I think, was the character that going in this, I was like just excited to see, but everyone else was new. Her going in, we kind of had an idea of what to expect, and I think she did. I don't want to say. I would say she did better from what she had in Suicide Squad. Because I think in Suicide Squad she had a little bit more in range wise, in just like some of the. Like the scenes in Suicide Squad that were in the extended edition, which is the only edition I recommend you watch, that James and I will be rewatching for a re-record here in the future. Because I like when she like drops the Harley and goes into like the Harleen persona in that.
Yeah, Margot goes back and forth really, really well and really easily in this.
And I feel like she did it in Suicide Squad, but in this one she knew how to like really do it. Like she knew her character. She knew what she was doing, and she was fun. Like she had a great line, a great time. She was enjoyable to watch. So like, I felt like this really was true to the character as far as keeping up with. I mean, in comic books, think about like her character is not that old compared to. When you're up against Batman and Superman who are 80 and Wonder Woman.
Yeah, she's created in 92. She's not even 30 years old yet.
So, and she's probably had like one of the largest growth, if not the biggest growth of a character and like biggest influence in the shortest amount of time.
I know you said you didn't want to get into like other people's opinions on this or like people bashing it, but I found it interesting earlier. I was reading some kind of a feed on Facebook, and it was under an article that talked about like this being a big bust basically in the theaters. And this one person, this dude gets on there and he's like, I don't understand why we have a film that's centered around Harley Quinn when she's a character that can't even hold her own without the Joker. And I was just like, I think the reason why this movie can stand on its own 2 feet is because of Margot Robbie. Let's be honest. I mean, I think that she just delivers the character the way that we really want to see it. And honestly, from a female perspective, it's kind of in a very like off and kind of dark way. It's kind of empowering for us to see like such a cool kick butt female, on screen like that.
I mean, and I pointed this out to Junia. Was it last week? Was it Superman 19? Yeah, where he walks into the Hall of Justice and there's all the heroes, but Harley's sitting there. So, like, in the comics, they've tried to work her into, like, this anti-hero role where she's walking a weird line. And I think this film does a little bit better job. I feel like Suicide Squad was a much darker Harley. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that was cut out in editing. Like, they tweaked things in post.
Gotcha.
Because, I mean, we got to remember, too, like, she's responsible for the death of Robin.
Right.
We don't know what her role was in it, but she was responsible for the death of Robin. And this Harley, I feel like they started kind of, like, they did the roller derby. And they tried to get into a lot more of what Harley's been up to more recent in the comics. And I think they've done a good job of making this kind of like amalgam Harley. Janine and I were talking about how, like, one thing with comic book films, and James, you and I have talked about this with shows too, is like, I hate when they don't have their costumes. And the one thing with, like, this version, like, of the current Harley is where she's bleached white also. It's like she has her costume on all the time. So you can kind of get away with her not having, like, a Harley costume on, because she's kind of always in character.
Right. Yeah, in this movie, she didn't like in Suicide Squad, she kind of had like a costume on. It almost seemed like day clothes, but this is really more like day clothes, what she would wear day in and day out, with her wild fashion sense. But you know, and in this one, like just the course of the film, it's not like, all right, suit up, we're doing this, you know what I mean? It kind of just happens and evolves. Like they don't have a costume change sequence or anything like that.
No.
Which was kind of funny. Journey Smollett, like, when did she have time for a shoe change? When she changes into her skates.
Honestly, it was kind of refreshing that it wasn't like over sexualized either. Even though it was an R rating and they could have pushed that envelope with that in particular, you know, they didn't at any point in time with her, and I'm very appreciative of that. It was just, like I said, super refreshing, especially with her character.
After the over-sexualization from Suicide Squad.
Exactly. They took it to like that next level with Suicide Squad in some instances in the movie. But with this, you know, obviously, once again, you know, you have somebody.
Well, it's a excuse me. It's kind of it's a growth for the character, you know, because back in Suicide Squad, she's with the Joker, she's in a dark place, and she's being controlled,
right?
And then now she's out of that, and she's empowering herself to become her own person, you know, and she's going down a different path than the Joker. So, you know, being used by the Joker for whatever he needs, which, you know, we know in Suicide Squad, in like the original cut, there was abuse, whether physical and emotional abuse, whereas in what they released, it was, you know, Joker's like a lovesick puppy. So, you know, the character, she would be used by him as a sexual object for people to look at, for a distraction, for his own play, for his own necessities, and then just be cast aside.
Right.
So that's kind of the life that she was living at that time, and now, you know, she can be somebody different, and she doesn't have to be sexualized if she doesn't want to be.
Right. It's nice to see that change. I like that.
Yeah, it's very good for the character.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about some scenes. Who really liked the scene where Harley was getting her hyena and the guy was going to be a creeper, and so she fed the guy to the hyena?
I laughed when the hyena was eating his leg.
I did too.
Yes.
As soon as he said, "We accept payment in kind," in that sleazy voice with that sleazy look, I said, "You are going to be dead." And then the next scene, he's getting eaten by the hyena.
She's just chilling on her couch.
It's hilarious.
I really...
Which I like one of the grievances. Fed brother to hyena.
I like the scene of her getting rid of Roman's driver. I turned to Junia, I was like, oh my gosh.
That was funny too.
Legs should not go that direction.
I was going to say, in the bar or on the street.
Oh, jeez. Either one. Oh my god. That was just great how she, on the street part.
Yeah.
So I do want to talk real second, like, the stunt work. Now, we do know that Warner Brothers brought in soon-to-be legendary director, but legendary stunt choreographer Chad Stahelski to shoot pick up reshoots and work on the action scenes. And I think it pays off, like, beautifully.
So good.
Because they really find that kinetic energy to, with the fighting. And like I told Junia, is like in the comics, Harley went to college on a gymnastics scholarship. So I really think that they utilized like a fighting style that utilized the gymnastics moves.
I'm just going to say this. After watching that film, I looked at Tyler as we were walking out of the movie theater, and I was like, this makes me want to get off the couch and learn how to fight, because it was really just exciting to watch.
She's just going to come to bed at night, and I'm like, how you doing? She's like,
it's my new job's going to be MMA fighter.
But you know what? There's nothing wrong with being a massage therapist by day and an MMA fighter by night.
Yes.
I just come home and Jania's like, yeah, I'm studying with this guy, Ted Grant. I'm like, okay, baby.
Like, yep. During the daytime, I heal people. During the nighttime, I hurt people.
So.
Yeah, the choreography, the fighting was really great. You know, I mean, it's really grounded, but it's still a comic book world. Mm-hmm. So, you know, the physics are not going to work like the real world. And when people complain about that, I'm like, you are just a moron. Like,
come on, people.
like that is the dumbest thing. Right.
The cars are just going to fly into space in the next film. And Vin Diesel's going to be on the moon racing somebody.
Right.
He's going to hit his NOS and launch from the moon to Earth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? That's going to... And I'll watch the crap out of it.
I've said all along, now that Warner Brothers has worked in a directing capacity with Chad Stahelski, he needs to direct Nightwing. I think he.
Oh, for sure.
I think with his style would be beautiful for Nightwing.
For sure.
I'll say that till the day that I pass on to heaven.
And some of the top and the top stunt people and yeah, that would be fantastic. That would probably be more brutal than the Martha Rescue Warehouse scene.
You think? Because I think it would.
I assume so.
So the R rating, do you really feel like we needed it? Did the R rating really add to this film, or was it a marketing gamble that may have caused problems for them?
I mean, Kathy Yen and Margot Robbie, they wanted to make an R-rated girl gang film, and they did. I mean, do I think the movie needed to be rated R for the content in it? No. I would let my kids watch this movie because it's just stylized violence, which they can see on any cartoon. And then, I mean, it's language, you know. My kids are 10 and 11. They're going to learn it very soon. I already know they know it. So,
but no, think about this for a second. R-rated sequencing, okay? We have the cutting of the face, which is an edit in post.
Yeah.
You have the leg, maybe, of the guy. You have
her breaking the guy's leg with the bat. Now that one was like, oh my god.
Yes. So, and then I'm trying to think. Sionis blowing up, that maybe be an R. You know.
Yeah, he did kind of blow into pieces.
And then the language, you know. So I mean, I say that because, you know, if you're going to make it R, okay, utilize your R. But also I think about the character of Harley and the market. She appeals to so many teenage girls that are you hindering yourself by making people who might want to see your film a little harder to actually pay and see your film? But they're going to find a way to see it. But are you going to make money off of it for them seeing it? So,
I mean, you know, all they do is make sure the person buying the tickets is over 18, and nowadays you don't even have to buy them at the stand. You buy them online, and somebody goes in and punches in a code, and they get their tickets and walk in. It's not like teenagers can't go see a rated R film these days if they wanted to.
It just kind of depends. I've been in theaters, and I was working at the movie theater part-time when It Chapter 1 came out, and we had to go in there and throw kids out that we were finding who were underage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, I mean, it kind of depends on your theater and stuff. But, you know, I just think, okay, example, BVS is PG-13, but the extended cut is an easy R rating. It has 2 F-bombs, Ben Affleck's butt, and some violence and blood. You know, and I think you could have done something similar with this, where you had your PG-13 and then, like, your extended unrated cut. Maybe you would have had some more butts and seats. But, I mean, I am sad because I really wish this movie would have opened with, like, Harley the Joker breaking up. You know, we do kind of see the Joker's green hair as we redo the scene of her and the acid. You know, and then... So that's one connective tissue to Suicide Squad. 2 is when she mentions the thing in her neck when she saved the world. And then 3 is when she sees Captain...
Yeah, she runs down the whole story. Yeah, she runs down the whole story of Suicide Squad. The history of her character, and then the whole story involving Suicide Squad, and then the light bridge in between.
So, I mean, and we know we're going to see her again. And it kills me that, you know, at one point in time, there was like 3 different Harley movies that were being developed. You know, I would have really loved to see the quote-unquote Joker Harley Mad Love movie that you could still do that would take place after Suicide Squad and before this film.
Yeah.
And I say just bring Leto back.
Yes.
And let him retool the Joker. Like, let him comment and change it up a little bit for those people who are big haters on not liking his Suicide Squad look and everything.
Well, I mean, there's one thing that we can't deny is the fact that Jared Leto is a good actor. Like, honestly, if you see any of his other work, it's like, yeah, this dude can act.
And part of it, I mean, let's look at Ewan McGregor. Okay? He was in the Star Wars prequels that a lot of people hated, but he's a great actor. And some people say he did a bad performance. He was doing what the director was telling him the director wanted.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of that is like the same thing with Jared Leto's Joker. He was doing what the director wanted for this character, and they were interpreting it together, and this is what they came up with. So, under a different guise, like...
I would love to see that. That would be a really cool thing, yes.
But I just
he was given 7.5 minutes of screen time, and that's in the extended cut with the added footage of him in there that wasn't in the theatrical cut. So the fact that people are making such a huge deal about his personification of the character is pretty ridiculous, because they didn't even get the character. All they got was the few, which you could give to the Joker once in a while. With his erratic personality, there would be times when he would, you know, quote unquote, love Harley, and other times where he wouldn't even notice that she's there or that she's been missing for a year. So, you know, they could show that one point in time. So the only thing that they have a real gripe about with is the look. So, okay, whatever, like, you don't like the look, but you can't make a justification, you can't make a judgment on a performance when you got 6 minutes worth of screen time and 7.5 with the extended cut, which most of the people who are complaining never even watched the extended cut to see some more of his performance. So I want to see him back. I would love to see some more of him. Like, he was the psychopath Joker. Like, I think that he would put everything that all of the other Jokers have done on screen, whether like Jerome on Gotham, the wild stuff that he did, and all the other stuff that have been done in the films, I think the psychopath Leto Joker, some of the stuff that he would do if he actually had some screen time, would make you cringe and put some other, wild, crazy things that other Jokers have done to shame. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Junia will always be a champion for the Leto Joker.
I will, because I don't think he had enough time to really develop such a complex character. I don't know. I think that the Joker is just, so multiple.
I think he did, but they just got rid of all of it,
Yeah.
I would say, Junia, have you ever seen like the video that starts piecing together stuff from all the scenes that were cut?
Yeah, I have.
And
you showed that to me before we looked at it together, but yeah.
It's just like there's so much that you're just like, wow. Like he developed this character to do nothing with it. But that's I just think we needed, and we know that there was a scene that was filmed for this movie that featured some sort of representation of that Joker character.
Yeah.
Of Harley getting kicked out. And it's out there somewhere. Maybe we'll see an extended edition.
It'd be awesome.
Deleted scene, extended edition, or something like that. They do. It is the same. It's the same Harley, so it's the same Joker from Suicide Squad. They were going to use his footage from Suicide Squad, but they decided against actually putting him in the film. You do see a version of the Joker from behind, and it has the same style, the same hair slicked back and everything, but it's just really quick. Some people are even speculating that the animation at the beginning, because the animation of Harley and the Joker are more classic comic book, they're like, oh, they're already doing away with Jared Leto's Joker by making this comic book accurate looking Joker in this animation. Well, it's like there was not that Margot Robbie never portrayed that comic book accurate Harley Quinn except for that one shot that mirrored the Alex Ross tuxedo Joker and Harley Quinn. Like, that's it.
Yep.
So, Margot Robbie has never personified that version of Harley Quinn either. So, like, it was a stylized animation just to give you the lowdown on her character really fast from literally conception to the time she became Harley Quinn.
I liked it too, because once again, you talked about this earlier, like she's telling the story, she's narrating all of this, so it's almost kind of like we're looking inside of her head, like she sees it as a cartoon animation. I just thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I definitely want a sequel to this movie. I think it ends where, Harley tricks the birds and goes off with the diamond. And she has Cassandra with her. And I think...
And she's in Dinah's car.
Yeah. We see Dinah and Huntress fighting in more comic book style outfits. And...
I thought that Dinah's Blue Crush Velvet with the fishnet arms looked great.
It was dope. Huntress's
mask was awesome. Her tracksuit was horrendous, but
the sequel right there writes itself. The Birds of Prey versus the Gotham City Sirens. Harley goes off and meets up with Poison Ivy, and there we go. That's what we have.
And that's where we get Gotham City Sirens.
So
splits off into Birds of Prey film so now that we're there, I think that, so if we've got like this early edition of Birds of Prey, we've got Montoya and Huntress and Canary together. If we get the introduction of Oracle, she's like, okay, now, like, you guys have been doing this, you've been doing a decent job, but she learned from the best. Now we take it to the next level.
Yes.
You guys get the proper equipment to do the job. You guys get the proper training to do the job. You know what I mean? And that's how you introduce Barbara into the Birds of Prey as it is now.
we're game. We'll write it.
Yep.
We'll write the Birds of Prey versus Gotham City Sirens film. I already have it, like, right here. James just introduced the ideas. We can do this.
Absolutely.
So the sequel would be great, and I think that's...
I don't even think... I mean, you could do that, but I'm not even sure if you even need Gotham City Sirens versus Birds of Prey. I think if that Birds of Prey went one way, Gotham City Sirens goes another way. You have Harley, she meets Poison Ivy, they introduce Catwoman, and then you bring back Jared Leto's Joker, and then Harley Quinn is torn between wanting to go back with her puddin' or stay with her friends, stay with the Gotham City Sirens.
See, I say you do the Birds of Prey there too, just because I feel like in the past you would want to space out that, but I feel like anymore, like you're never guaranteed your sequel. So if you have an idea for the movie, you should put it in and make the best film you can. And like this movie showed that this is how you do more of a girl power, girl gang film.
Yes.
Junia and I talked about this, like comparing it to how just kind of like blah the Ghostbusters reboot, remake, wannabe thing was. I mean, this one, I had no problem that it was all women. Like, and I didn't feel like they forced, like, it's all women. Only women can be in this movie. Only women can do stuff. I never got that vibe or felt from it. I just enjoyed it.
I never felt like I've heard the misogyny argument that it's, making all men misogynists. I'm like, I mean, there's a lot of bad guys that they're around, but I didn't feel like it was like, oh, all men are misogynist pigs and, girl power all the way. I did not get that. I went and saw the movie alone, and I was sitting there and I never felt like, oh my God, I'm horrible because I'm a dude. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's like, because by that logic, that means that every woman in other movies is like some sort of sex slave.
Truth.
But all right. Well, this brings us to our end of our discussion. We could probably keep going on. It's late. Junia's tired. I'm tired. Solomon's still awake somehow. Now that this movie is out and it's entered I'm just going to give up and call it the DCEU. I'm done fighting the battle. They tried to tell me there was going to be the DC films and all this stuff. They've yet to be able to do that. So I'm just going to go with DCEU until I hear something better. Okay, I officially turned in my fight card. Now that they're doing these spin-off movies like Joker, where it's a DC film but it doesn't connect or anything like that, it's going to get really confusing. So, James, we'll start with you. Favorite to least favorite, give us your ranking of the DCEU films.
Okay, let me get back to that here. So while I'm going back to that, box office wise, so this movie cost about $84 million to make, and that actually is farther back in the conversation. The movie cost $84 million to make, and worldwide it made like $81 million this weekend. So nearly in its opening weekend, this movie made its budget back. So, I mean,
there's nothing to complain about.
No, like calling it a disaster and calling it a flop, like Ford versus Ferrari cost more to make and made like $2 million less. And, like, oh, it's amazing. It's fantastic. This made more money, was the number one movie in the world, and it's a disaster. It's a flop. Like, it's like, that's double standards if you ever heard one. Like, all the articles I've seen, like, you guys are just clickbait crap. Like, number one movie in the world for the weekend, just because it didn't open to $150 million box office, $100 million box office. Like, it didn't cost that much to make, per standards. It didn't cost that much to make. And ideally, as long as it, clears enough money, it's going to be profitable. Shazam costs more to make. And if this makes Shazam money, it's profitable. And so, but my DCEU rankings is 1 is Man of Steel, 2, Batman vs. Superman, 3 is Wonder Woman, 4, Aquaman, 5, Shazam, 6, Birds of Prey, 7, Suicide Squad, and 8 is Justice League. 3 is pretty much most of the time always there, but 3, 4, and 5 can switch on any given day. And, maybe 6 can jump up in contention for 4 and 5 at some point. And so Birds of Prey can, hop up into 4 or 5 depending on the day, because it was really good. It was fun and I enjoyed it, and I will revisit it once in a while. I would like to watch Suicide Squad and this back to back, and then after the Suicide Squad comes out, to watch all 3 of them back to back and just kind of see that progression of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn.
Yeah. I like how Lilith described this movie. It's not a sequel, it's a sidequel.
I haven't listened to theirs yet.
So I was like, that's worth pointing out.
It's good. Yeah, it's good.
Juju, read off yours.
Okay, mine is completely different.
Well, yeah,
than James.
it's whatever you want it to be.
No, I'm just saying.
It's your ranking.
I know. So number 1 for me is Wonder Woman. 2 is Aquaman. 3 is Justice League. 4 is Birds of Prey. 5 is Shazam. 6 is Man of Steel. 7 is BVS, and 8 is Suicide Squad. Yeah. Yep. I honestly, my 1, 2, and 3, a lot of it has, and 4 even, like a lot of it has to do with, they're just fun movies. I really enjoyed them, yeah. So no, they're
our rankings are our own entertainment. The amount of entertainment that each film gives us, what we prefer. It's it's not the technical aspects of the film. If that were the case, they would all probably be in a different order. But
right.
but it's how much you enjoyed each film and how often that you would revisit. So you would revisit your top films more often than you would revisit your lower ones. I'll still watch Justice League. I will not watch any movie on this list.
Yes. Right. Agreed.
I will rewatch any movie on this list at any given time. Yep. Just Justice League being what it is and what it should have been. And there's some, there's going on with that, because you can say a lot of movies should have been this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's a big difference when it comes to what Justice League should have been, because Justice League was already filmed and made to be something else, and then they turned it into this,
Gotcha.
So when people say like Birds of Prey, this movie, when they say this movie should have been something else, they didn't make this movie something else and then change it. They made this movie the way they wanted to make it. So there's a big difference in what you expect a movie to be, what you think a movie should be, and what a movie turns out to be. Justice League is very different because it was made to be something else, and the studio reshot so much and retooled and re-edited the movie to be something completely different.
See, and I feel a similar way because of like with Suicide Squad, that was such a,
and that's in the same boat.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly why it's my number 8. It was disappointing to me. So yeah,
and that's why I'm going to jump in here real quick with mine, because it falls into that same discussion. My number 1 is BVS. Man of Steel is number 2. Shazam is number 3, 4 is Wonder Woman, 5 is Aquaman, 6 is Birds of Prey, 7 is Suicide Squad, and 8 is Justice League. And the bottom 2 are basically interchangeable, but they are basically because of what you just said. Justice League, we know all that. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Suicide Squad,
ad nauseum length.
Suicide Squad, they changed stuff at the last minute as a reaction to BVS.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even know what we were looking at before it was released in theaters. And you can tell some change, like the way, and we talked about this in our really weird commentary that will never be released because it's extremely hard to follow because of technical difficulties, about just the editing, the pacing, and changes in that movie. Batman v Superman, the extended edition. I love it. I mean, it's not perfect. There's things I wish were a little bit different, but it's a really solid film. I wish, we could get into that. Man of Steel is is great. Shazam is sadly like the one on here I've seen the least, but it's just a fun movie. And just where I recently revisited, like there's a lot of heart that I love in that movie, a lot of fun to that movie. Wonder Woman and Aquaman probably could be flipped depending on the time. And then Birds of Prey, fun, but I've only watched it once, so it's very hard to like really feel how I feel about a film. So I've seen it at least 2 times or more, because sometimes, you know, you come away with that, you're hyped, you loved it, you enjoyed it, but when you watch it again, you're like, oh man. But yeah, that is our Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey. Birds of Prey.
I think you downloaded the wrong movie there, Tyler.
Oh, what is this? But all right. That's where we're going to cut it off because it's getting late and we need to get some sleep. So, James, thanks for joining us. Junia, it's so great to have you back and hear your voice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, guys.
I'm going to advertise.
Yes, good talking to you, Ju.
Good talking to you,
Junia's
too.
return, because I know Phil will listen to it just to hear you back on the podcast.
Aw.
Good night, everybody.